Contact, contact. Stay there! Don't be rude! Stay there! Stay where you are! Come on now! Take my down! Okay, pull out, come on.
A car speeds through the quiet fields of Lincolnshire, pursued by a swarm of police cars, sirens blaring through the afternoon. It doesn't stop until it's stopped in the middle of a farm, dust billowing. The occupants are unarmed and there's no sign of a violent crime, but the journey is just the tip of something much bigger, an invisible network operating in silence, leaving a trail of tracks across the east of England. What really happened? And why did it all start with such a chase? The Abs Line gang emerged in 2022 amid a period of chaos in Skegness and the east coast of England. It was not a simple street gang, but a highly organized structure that transported Class A cocaine from inland cities like Coventry and Hinckley to the more remote coasts. At the head of the network was Alistair Renwick, a low-key but influential figure who oversaw all logistics and distribution. Under him were Nathan Makey, who coordinated communications and trading strategies, Connor Darwin, a daring courier who was once chased down the A46, Kirsty Riley, a key female driver who delivered the goods to rendezvous points, and Sarah Makey, who provided support and resupply when needed. Although they lived as ordinary citizens, they coordinated shipments worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, spreading drugs into every corner of the local community. The rise of Abs Line was no accident, but the inevitable result of a hidden restructuring of the criminal world in the east of England. In late 2021, a series of police raids shook the established order, paralyzing many old drug trafficking routes. With the old bosses gone, a huge power vacuum formed in hotspots such as Skegness, Inglemells, and Mablethorpe. In that chaos, the Abs Line clan crept in quietly, taking advantage of the weakness to build their own transport routes. They used seemingly anonymous people, drivers, couriers, even housewives, to act as a bridge between the delivery points and the consumer markets. That silent operation allowed them to avoid attention for a long time. However, it was the rapid expansion and dense appearance of strange individuals in the community that fueled a wave of suspicion. And from those small signs, the series of crimes began. The Abs Line operation was quiet, but extremely regular and systematic. From mid-2022 to the end of 2023, the group established routes to transport Class A drugs, mostly cocaine, from the Midlands to coastal towns in Lincolnshire. They used private vehicles and drivers with no criminal records to conceal their activities and avoid attracting police attention. The transactions took place mainly in Skegness, Mablethorpe, and Inglemells, quiet areas but easily accessible to tourists and locals. One of the biggest busts came when Connor Darwin, the main courier, was pursued after ignoring a police stop. Police had placed a stinger device on a stretch of the A46. Darwin did not stop and continued driving for more than 5 miles, forcing the officers to resort to forceful stop tactics. The pursuit ended in a field near Doddington Hall, where the car was stopped and Darwin was arrested. Meanwhile, police were following up and gathering enough evidence to raid other addresses. Kirsty Riley was spotted driving a delivery van from Coventry East. Sarah Makey was arrested after dashcam footage showed she had been supplying the syndicate on several occasions. During the operation, the gang distributed at least 5.8 kilograms of cocaine, worth an estimated 252,000 pounds. They regularly changed vehicles, used burner phone numbers, and used mass text messages to market to regular customers. The system was so well run that it was almost impossible to believe that the main facilitator, Renwick, lived in a normal residential area of Hinckley. But it was small details like the repeated presence of the same license plate at the delivery points or the frequent presence of people like Tompkins in the suspected area that gradually formed a chain of important clues. The police quietly connected the dots, pinpointed the exact role of each member, and planned to dismantle the entire network, starting with a daring arrest in the middle of a field and expanding into a 2-year operation.
We're straight on A46, on the A46, through the roundabout. Tyres all look correct on the subject vehicle. approaching the junction with more lane, overtaking vehicles, medium risk, speed 90 miles an hour, approaching the Doddington roundabout now. It's into the roundabout, not one, 1-1, off towards Doddington Road. Yeah, towards Doddington, speed 60 miles an hour, slowing down for the bends. Entering into 30, speed is 60 miles an hour. We're staying on, actually, stand by, it's a left towards Wisby, and then it's straight on into the car park of Doddington Hall. Straight on through the car park towards the... Straight on through the car park of Doddington, back out on the left, past the lake on our near side. And then it's a left at the end of that. We're on the track going down near a field whilst we're asking for tactical contact before it gets back onto the main road. We're currently on a farm track. Yeah, copy that. We're off into a field. Contact. 2 male occupants. There we go. Stop it, hands! Stay there! Nobody move! Stay there! Stay where you are! Bring him out. Let go of your seatbelt now. And wrap your hand out there. Right, you're under arrest, mate. Let my down. Let go, pull out, come on. You're under arrest, mate.
The investigation began quietly but with determination in September 2022, when officers noticed an unusual increase in drug-related crime in Skegness and its surrounding coastal areas. Initially, there were only scattered clues: a car number plate that was appearing too frequently, young strangers staying in cheap hotels for short periods, and a series of unidentified text messages. Local police, working with the Serious and Organized Crime Unit, SOTU, quickly set up a task force focusing on monitoring movements in 3 key towns: Skegness, Ingold Mells, and Mablethorpe. They used covert surveillance tactics, extracted data from hundreds of traffic cameras, and, crucially, analyzed data from more than 4.2 million text messages and calls collected from burner phones used by the suspects. Each link was gradually revealed. Connor Darwin was a regular sight along the A46. Kirsty Riley's movements were consistent with drug dealing, and Sarah Mackey was constantly near suspicious locations. Meanwhile, on the logistical side, the police discovered an address in Hinckley, where Renwick lived as a private citizen but was actually running the network. The raid on the property yielded £12,000 in unexplained cash and items related to distribution. In parallel, the police executed more than 60 search warrants at a number of locations, seizing a series of phones, documents, and other key pieces of evidence. Significantly, they traced the phone data back to Nathan Mackey's drug marketing messages, cementing his role as the ringleader of the operation. Another key turning point came when dashcam footage from a coastal residential area showed Sarah Mackey repeatedly approaching delivery vehicles at odd hours. The pieces began to fit together, and the individual cases were carefully constructed. The arrest of Connor Darwin after a thrilling chase in the fields set the stage for a series of dramatic actions. Each subject was arrested in a variety of situations, while driving, relaxing at home, and transferring cash. It was not only a prosecutorial success, but also a strategic victory in exposing the entire operating structure of a sophisticated drug ring that had seemed unbreakable. The ABS line network was more than just a group of drug dealers. It was a closed system with a clear division of labor, operating like a shadow business. At the top of the pyramid was Alistair Renwick, who controlled logistics and coordinated the entire distribution operation. Below him, Nathan Makey was in charge of internal communications and sent out text messages to hundreds of phone numbers every day, a marketing tactic that allowed the network to expand rapidly. Kirsty Riley was the main driver, driving the goods from Coventry to the coast. Connor Darwin and Liam Tompkins were in charge of the forwarding of the goods, ensuring they arrived at the right destination without attracting attention. Sarah Makey played a supporting role, supplying and resupplying the trips. While the group had no international connections, it operated on a strict hierarchical model, with a cover that made its members virtually invisible to the public. It was this sophistication that made it so difficult to trace. The massive manhunt was launched as soon as the police had enough data and evidence to act. It started with the arrest of Connor Darwin on the 5th of June 2025. After a terrifying chase on the A46, Darwin was not only arrested for refusing to stop, but also convicted of conspiracy to supply cocaine, receiving a sentence of 2 years and 6 months in prison. Previously, in July 2022, Kingpin Alistair Renwick was arrested in equally tense circumstances. When police raided him, he tried to flee, was tasered, but still rushed out of his house before collapsing with the tip of a needle still stuck in his chest. Police seized £12,000 in unexplained cash from his home. Renwick was sentenced to 9 years in prison on 24 April 2025, with a 5-year Serious Crime Prevention Order, SCPO, after his release. On the 6th of June 2025, Kirsty Riley, a 32-year-old woman who ran the drug vans from Coventry, was sentenced to 3 years in prison after being repeatedly found at key points of sale. Sarah Makey, 47, was found guilty of 2 counts of assisting the syndicate and was sentenced to 21 months in prison, suspended for 18 months with 80 hours of community service. Another co-defendant, Liam Tompkins, 25, was sentenced in absentia to 3 years and 6 months in prison after failing to appear in court. Nathan Makey, who was responsible for sending text messages promoting the drugs to a number of contacts, was charged and will be sentenced on 22 August 2025. Police allege he was responsible for maintaining the flow of transactions until Renwick was arrested. The convictions of each member were based not only on testimony or crime scenes, but also on phone records, surveillance videos, encrypted messages, and even GPS movements. It was one of the most elaborate trials, lasting months, with hundreds of pieces of digital evidence presented to prove each person's role in the network. The case ended with more than 120 years in prison for 70 defendants involved in the entire operation, most of whom were members of the ABS line. It marked a major step forward in the fight against the drug cartels in coastal areas, where the seemingly eternal peace was once obscured by the shadow of white shipments. The ABS line case ended with harsh sentences, but the story is not over. In the seemingly peaceful streets of Skegness, there are still memories of a time when violence and drugs crept into every corner of life. Hundreds of messages, seemingly harmless car rides, contributed to the growth of a toxic network for many years. So have we really cut the roots or just cut off a few branches? How many groups like ABS line are still quietly existing behind the surface of everyday life? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. And if you think this is a story worth spreading, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to continue with Shadows of UK Crime, to explore the truths hidden deep in the darkness.